What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Full Court Talk podcast. My guy CJ is back,
Yes,
and
sir.
we have some great topics today. We got some interesting stuff, some great rumors,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, we're rounding out the rest of the lottery, going picks 11 through 14 today. But before we start it, let's just get into the topics. So I actually just saw this. So I guess Chris Paul has a preferred location of the Los Angeles Lakers and the New York Knicks. So we'll get into that for a little bit. Then the next topic is going to be DeMar DeRozan. Is he a better fit for the Bucks or the Nets?
Yep.
Then we have Ben Simmons. Is he a good fit for the Warriors? And then I think the biggest topic we're going to have today, what's going on with LaMelo Ball?
Mm-hmm.
That's very interesting. Mike D'Antoni, like we predicted, jokingly,
Yep.
Mike D'Antoni to the
Yeah.
Nets, joining Steve Nash's staff. Then, like I said
Yep.
before, picks 11 through 14, rounding out the lottery. If you guys want us to keep going with the lottery picks, or not the lottery picks, the draft picks, just let us know because we will gladly do it because the draft is very close now.
Mm-hmm.
But, so Chris Paul prefers to be traded to the Lakers or the Knicks. I'll let you take
Yeah.
the Lakers. And, so what do you think about this?
Well, I mean, you can't deny the relationship, CP3 and Braun have. So obviously, that's going to be well for LeBron. Having CP3 is obviously going to take away a lot of his touches, but I think it's going to be for the better. That way he won't have to do as much, especially with, the season approaching fast. They're still trying to see whether or not they should start in December or in January. But if it does happen soon, getting somebody like CP3 would definitely help with LeBron pushing forward. And then, AD, he wouldn't even have to adjust as much.
Yeah.
CP is a great point guard, Hall of Famer, as we all know. But I'm only afraid of what we would have to give up to get him because obviously, it's going to demand a lot. It's going to demand a whole lot. And, I love a bunch of the players that the Lakers have now. I mean, as for those that have been listening to us for quite some time, they only know two players that I don't like, and I highly doubt that it's going to take those two players to get CP3. It's going to demand so much more, probably in the likes of Caruso. I don't want to give somebody like him up, and so CP3 I feel like he would transition, exceptionally smooth to the Lakers. Having Jason Kidd there as a mentor, I don't think he's going to leave to go anywhere else to pursue other opportunities. Having him would definitely help out as well. But it's just the team, even though AD is our best player from what everybody says and from what we can all see, it's still LeBron's team. And having a friend who's close to him, his banana boat buddy, CP3, would definitely, ease up some of the things that he does for the team. And so, it'd definitely be beneficial. It'd put us back into contention for a repeat. So, I personally like the trade. I just don't like what we would have to give up in order to get CP3.
Yeah, I think like we exported it, they'd have to give up a lot. They'd have to re-sign KCP just to flip him. And I'm
Exactly.
not sure OKC would like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're getting a lot of players that are good, but
Yeah.
they're not going to offer you much in terms of what CP3 would offer. And I get you're trying to
Yeah.
rebuild, and the Lakers don't have the young talent to rebuild with. Kuzma's not going to be
Exactly.
enough. Danny Green he would have to be included, and I don't see why the Thunder would want a Danny Green, a
Yeah.
KCP. These guys are good on a contender,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yep.
on a team that's rebuilding, I just don't see why this deal would make sense. Plus, Lakers don't have the picks that
Mm-hmm.
they'd be willing to give up. And if they were willing to give up even a first rounder for a 36-year-old point guard,
Mm-hmm.
pretty questionable, I think. But for the Knicks, I guess they already have a deal lined up with the Knicks. It's just
Yeah.
on the Knicks to accept it.
Mm-hmm.
And my guess, it's gonna include Kevin Knox, Ntilikina, and maybe Dennis Smith, and maybe
I
a
was gonna say
pick or
that
two.
too. Yeah.
I don't think they would trade this year's pick.
Yeah.
If they do, the Thunder are just brilliant for that.
Yeah. Sam Presti deserves some credit.
Oh yeah, but even Chris Paul to the Knicks, it just like, why?
Yeah.
I don't understand why you'd go for a 36-year-old point guard. Your team that's trying to rebuild, but I think the Knicks are just trying to sell tickets at this point. They don't
Yeah.
care about winning, and like I think that's such a bad mentality, I feel like, because
Oh
you
yeah.
need to like build the team, not build the team to make some money. Build a team to
Yeah.
win. So
Mhm.
it's just a very odd situation, and I get why Chris Paul wants to go to New York. New
Yeah.
York's a great place. Everyone wants to be
Yeah.
in a big city like that.
Yeah.
And they have the young team to easily flip them. The Knicks
Mhm.
have the assets to flip them
Yeah.
because, I mean, they don't have much else going for them. They've been
Exactly.
drafting in the lottery year after year. And so maybe they make this trade. If I'm the Thunder, I'm pulling the trigger immediately.
Agreed.
But yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting to see what happens. I think Chris Paul is definitely going to get traded at this point. There's no reason for them to not trade him.
Mhm.
But let's get into the next topic. DeMar DeRozan has been in the rumor mill for quite a while now, ever since pretty much he's gotten to the Spurs.
Mhm.
And the two teams that have come out ahead are the Bucks and the Nets. So DeMar isn't the player who he used to be. He's not super athletic. He's getting a little older, but
Mhm.
he's still a really good player.
Yeah.
He's a guy that will, if you tell him go get a bucket, he's gonna get that bucket.
Yeah.
He's great inside, great mid-range game, great post game for a guard.
Mhm.
Um, but with that being said, he's a pretty old school. He can't shoot the three, and that's
Yeah.
gonna clog a lot of lanes for teams that uh, don't have the spacing.
Yeah.
And so the two teams, obviously, like I said, the Milwaukee Bucks and the Brooklyn Nets. I'm not sure if Milwaukee wants him to trade some of their shooters, but it's kind of confusing to me because even though it's a good fit on paper, I think
Mhm.
the Bucks really lack shooting.
Yeah.
And Giannis is someone you need to surround with shooters. So
Yeah.
why add someone that's going to clog the lane, right?
Mhm.
It's a very, I think this is it reeks of desperation for the Bucks, right? Because
Yeah.
they saw that they needed a secondary score in the playoffs. Bledsoe and Middleton,
Mhm.
back-to-back years have kind of fallen apart in the playoffs. The Bucks fell apart earlier than the year before, getting bounced in the second round. So
Yeah.
I think the Bucks are just trying to put names on paper right now, and just trying
Mhm.
to essentially do what the Knicks are trying to do, but trying to contend at the same time.
Yeah.
And I don't think always getting a star is going to be your best uh, move here.
Mhm.
And they do definitely need to make a trade because I think this team isn't good enough to contend as it is. They need to get a shooting scorer, not just
Yeah.
a score.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be tough because Eric Bledsoe is someone they'd have to give up. And I think they want to get rid of Eric Bledsoe already. He's
Mhm.
already 30 years old. He's not worth a lot.
Yeah.
But like we talked about, they'd have to give up Dante DiVincenzo.
Mhm.
And so those are two of your best defenders on the perimeter.
Yeah.
And you're giving them up for a aging star that
Mhm.
can't shoot. So I'm not too sure what the move would be here. I mean, Dante DiVincenzo, great perimeter defender,
Yeah.
good shot making abilities, good shot creating abilities.
Mhm.
So why would you give him up for someone that is essentially the same thing? Maybe not. I don't think DiVincenzo has the same production,
Yeah.
but he definitely does a lot of things that DeMar doesn't do. You know.
Mhm.
So if I'm the Bucks, I'm looking elsewhere. I don't think you need an
Yeah.
extra star like that. Obviously, the thing you need mostly is like a Bradley Beal type player, but
Yeah.
you don't have enough to give up to get Bradley Beal. So it's just I think it's an awkward situation they're in right now. They don't have
Yeah.
enough to give up anything. Most people aren't going to take an Eric Bledsoe uh, unless they're desperate.
Mhm.
He's not a big enough name for teams like the Knicks or the Suns to go after. Definitely not the Suns after what happened, how he left, right?
Yep.
But he's not a big enough name to put people in the seats. So where do you go from here, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be a tough time, and I think they're going to have to give up some of their youth to get another star that's counterproductive at that point. So
Yeah.
if I'm the Bucks, look elsewhere, get somewhere else.
Yeah.
But I'll let you go over the Nets. What do you think about them going after a guy like DeMar DeRozan?
Well, first of all, I'd like to agree with what you said. Like the Bucks should definitely move elsewhere. They shouldn't pursue DeMar. And I was gonna say DeMar is a better fit. Like if he had to leave and go get traded to one of these two teams, he would be better fit with the Nets. Their play style is obviously going to change with the additions to the coaching staff, which we'll touch base later on. But DeMar DeRozan, like he's kind of like he's not really that old, but he's not that young. His prime is kind of just it's sailed. Those years with the Raptors, like that was probably like his best years. And like moving forward, like I could see his role. Not, I would have to say, like unfortunately, like declining, like Paul Millsap type role. Sometimes he'll put up 40, but some days he'll have like 6. That's what I see him doing. But in reality, like being on a team with KD and Kyrie would definitely help you. You know what I mean? Because obviously, those guys are going to demand the defense to shift to them, and all you would have to do pretty much is worried about scoring yourself. So with defenders going after KD and Kyrie, emphasizing those two on defense, it's going to give him an opportunity to do his thing. Kyrie is a scoring point guard, but he can pass as well.
Yeah.
KD is a clear best player on the team. And so, like, DeMar can fit that 2 role. They have Joe Harris and they have Karis LeVert. But I could see Karis LeVert getting shifted to a 6-man position if they were to get DeMar to start DeMar.
Yeah.
So the lineup would be Kyrie, DeMar, Joe Harris, KD. I would round it out. But it's just DeMar he's a mid-range guy. He can clog the lane. He can't really shoot the 3 as well. He can make the occasional 3, but he won't be consistent. And so I think he best fits with the Nets because they do need a 2 spot. They do need somebody that can take the pressure off KD and Kyrie. When one of those guys goes to the bench to get some rest, he could be that second player to pair up with that one star that's still playing. It's a better fit than the Bucks because if you were to go to the Bucks, like you already have Chris Middleton and Giannis. Chris Middleton is a better shooter out of the 2, but plugging in DeMar DeRozan with Giannis would clog the lane.
Yeah.
Since they both do a lot of their damage on offense within the paint. And so, just going to the Nets would probably be a better career change for DeMar because it hasn't panned out for the Spurs. You see what they're doing with Aldridge and him, like those 2 mid-range guys. Like, if Pop wasn't such like a smart coach, like I don't think they would have won as much games as they have. That experiment didn't work, and that's why they're trying to get rid of him. And I think they're prioritizing Aldridge. So DeMar DeRozan is more expendable. So I definitely see him going to the Nets over the Bucks, but it's a matter of what would they give up? Because first of all, I don't see them giving up Karis. I definitely don't see them giving up Joe Harris because he's one of their best shooters.
Yeah.
So it would have to fall down the line of what pieces could be available that Spurs would want, unless they were just like done with DeMar and they would just take anything. But you never know with the Spurs. So yeah.
From what it seems like, they'd have to give up Karis.
Yeah.
I don't know who else you'd have to give up because there's
Exactly.
literally no one else on that team.
Yeah.
They have no young players. And Karis is their young guy that is a stud.
Yeah.
They don't have the picks to trade. But yeah, I mean, if the Spurs can somehow get Karis LeVert in this trade, it'd like jumpstart the rebuild. You'd have DeJounte Murray, Derek White, and Karis LeVert. That's a great like wing plus guard tandem.
Yeah, a lot of length too.
Really good. Defensively, you'd be nice.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I think he'd be able to learn from Tim Duncan, who's possibly the next head coach for the Spurs.
Yeah.
So that's a really good thing to have there.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think with DeMar is like he kind of Wiggins is basically DeMar to me.
Mm.
Super athletic, good mid-range guys. Not the best three-point shooter, but the biggest thing you're gonna see here is like you're gonna get kicked to the corner a lot, right?
Yeah.
DeMar can't hit the three, so he's gonna have to dribble in. So it
Exactly.
could clog the lane.
Hmm.
And we've seen DeMar his 3-point shooting was decent in Toronto, and then when he got to the Spurs, it completely disappeared. He
Yeah.
stopped taking them altogether. So something happened. Maybe it was Popovich told him don't take it,
Hmm.
but he needs to be able to hit some kind of three to be able to space the floor for them. So I'm not too sure how it's gonna go.
Yeah.
But even for the Nets, if I'm giving up Karras, I'm looking somewhere else because Karras is too important. I think that's your third star.
Oh yeah. I definitely
I
think so
think
too.
Karras showed out in the bubble. I think he played amazing. So
Yeah.
keep him
Hmm.
and just if I guess the Spurs are gonna have to keep looking for someone to take DeMar. From what it sounds like, I guess DeMar doesn't even want to be there. I've heard reports of him saying that he hates San Antonio,
Yeah.
which is sad, but it is what it is. And I think they're even trying to unload Aldridge at this point too.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, yeah. I've
Yeah.
heard him connect to the Heat, which would be a great addition for the Heat. But
Yeah.
let's move on to the next topic. So, Ben Simmons Ben Simmons a good fit for the Warriors? We briefly talked about this because this kind of came out kind of suddenly. I
Yeah.
guess the Warriors are looking to trade Andrew Wiggins, the second pick, and some fillers for Ben Simmons.
Yeah.
And to me, this is a great move. I would definitely take this because I think Ben Simmons is LaMelo with the maturity and the defense.
Hmm.
Um, Obviously, both of them aren't the best shooters. Ben being a guy who doesn't want to shoot.
Hmm.
And he's also been connected to the Timberwolves for that first overall pick. So I think we've heard that the Sixers really love LaMelo. And so from what I've heard, they're trying to trade up.
Hmm.
And it would take a guy like Ben Simmons. I don't think Ben Simmons and LaMelo would even fit on the same team. So you'd have to give Ben up either way. But
Yeah.
if I'm Ben, I want to go to the Warriors. I don't want to go to the Timberwolves. I don't want anything to do with the Timberwolves,
Yep.
regardless if they have my old teammate D'Angelo.
Yeah.
There's so much uncertainty with the Timberwolves. I think they have a lack of assets, like we've talked
Hmm.
about, and their front office is really bad.
Yeah.
Um, the Warriors are known for their phenomenal front office and just being a stand-up organization.
Hmm.
So if I'm Ben, the base sounds great. To get into their fit defensively, it's going to be super scary as an opposing team. That's a team that can switch 1 through 5 for your bigs. Draymond and Ben Simmons on the same team would just be very good on the perimeter and the interior. They would just need some kind of shot blocker. I think Marquise Chris would slide in great there.
Yeah.
On the offensive end, it could get a little slowed because of Draymond.
Yeah.
His three looked like it got pretty bad last season. I think he was just not hitting any kind of shots. He was having a tough season overall.
Yeah.
Um, but the greatest strength here is Steph doesn't need to play make anymore.
Hmm.
He would literally just need to go off screens, run around, and just get open. He and Clay
Yeah.
would be great in that kind of situation. Ben Simmons is known as one of the best playmakers in the NBA for his height,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So this would either do wonders for the offense or it could fail miserably because of the lack of spacing.
Yeah.
I think you would need to get a big, like a Brook Lopez. I don't
Yeah.
think he's available, but if you could get a Brook Lopez type player, get a shooting big, that would be great, But there's also the problem of giving up your young guys like Eric Pascal, Jordan Poole. You'd have to give up one or both of them to get Ben
Hmm.
Simmons. Are you willing to do
Yeah.
that? So it would be difficult to do, but if that's the trade presented to the Warriors, I just pull the trigger immediately.
Yeah.
The second pick's not going to do enough to guarantee any kind of contention,
Hmm.
and they're also going to have to get used to playing with guys like Steph and Clay. So
Yeah.
it's a totally different thing.
Yeah.
But Simmons is also locked up for a long time. He's a young guy you could build around after Steph and Clay and Dre are retired.
Yeah.
So if I'm the Warriors, I would definitely do this trade. Ben Simmons
Hmm.
is the best player on the market, I think, for the Warriors. But do
Yeah.
you think he's a good fit overall?
To be honest, I do. I do think he's a good fit. Um, I know Wiggins has been into this trade, but at the same time, I also wouldn't be surprised if it was Draymond instead that was traded.
Yeah.
To be honest, like they play the same. Ben Simmons is just a better passer, and Draymond is just smarter. But in terms of hypothetically speaking, if it was Wiggins instead of Draymond, since that's what we're touching base on, I would say that they would definitely fit. Like, and the lineup that I would use with Ben Simmons is simply Steph, Clay, him, Draymond, and Marquise Chris. That lineup would be able to run, they'd be able to defend, and I think it would just cause teams a lot of trouble. Um, like you said, Steph wouldn't have to be the playmaker, and he would probably switch to a better position at the two, because Ben Simmons would take a lot of ball handling duties, and then Steph and Clay can just worry about coming off screens and getting theirs. And so, you know, having Draymond as a stretch forward, maybe even the five, Chris at the same thing, I can honestly say that, you know, them being able to run or being able to shoot would definitely improve with Ben Simmons, because, he's one of the smartest passers in the game.
Yeah.
And so I think the Warriors at this point can definitely choose their poison of who they want to trade for from the Sixers, because, they've been linked to Embiid and now
Yeah.
they've been linked to Simmons. But I think, like you said, like Ben Simmons is still a young player, and so there's I read a report back then where Steph wanted to possibly retire early. I don't know if he's actually going to do it, but because like he's dealing with a lot of, like, he dealt with a lot of injuries before, and then pushing forward, he just wants to take care of himself. But this was like a couple of years ago, and I'm sure his feelings have changed, especially with things that have happened.
Yeah.
So well, despite that, I still think that post-retirement for these guys, Ben Simmons will be there to be the face of the
Yeah.
franchise. And I think trading for him would be better than trading for Embiid. And he just fits them much better, because we've talked about Draymond and his reputation with bigs. Ben Simmons isn't a traditional big, but as smart as a player as Draymond is, he'll utilize Ben Simmons in ways that Ben Simmons wasn't even used to playing.
Yeah.
And so I would even argue that. And, like, you can't deny the clutch ties.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for the Warriors, you
Yeah.
can't deny the clutch ties. So, one way or the other, that lineup would be nasty. They'd be able to run. They'd be able to defend. They'd be able to set up in half-court offense. And it would just give other teams trouble, offensively, defensively. So, like you said, if I'm the Warriors and that trade is available with the second pick, I'm not hesitating. I'm pulling the trade. And so, yeah.
I definitely agree. I think if we could give up Draymond instead, like I love Draymond,
Mm-hmm.
as like he's like the epitome of a warrior. But I
Exactly.
think what's been going on with this whole, like, him kind of being really weird about the whole Steph and LeBron thing. If you asked him now, who would you pick over them? He'd pick LeBron. And I
Yeah.
think a couple years ago, before Clutch, he would have been, oh, Steph's my guy. But now he'll be like, no, LeBron, bro, he's the best player in the game. It's like, I get it. Like,
Yeah.
it's just it's a weird dynamic right now. And I think I've heard that the Warriors are very upset with how Draymond's been going about this offseason.
Yeah.
But, with that being said, like, I hope that Ben Simmons comes to the Warriors, because I really do like Ben Simmons.
Yeah.
And I think, we're not going to talk about this a lot, but Daryl Morey signing with the Sixers. What does that mean for Ben Simmons?
Exactly.
Daryl Morey is notorious for threes. Ben Simmons is notorious for not taking threes.
Hmm.
So I definitely think the rumors are going to be true that they're going to shop Ben Simmons and see what they can get.
Yeah.
If I'm the Sixers and Wiggins is made available, I would take him.
Hmm.
Wiggins is a young player that they can build around somewhat.
Yeah.
And you still have that second pick. You can get LaMelo Ball or Anthony Edwards kind of guy. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of lanes you can go, and I think this would be kind of like the sign that the Sixers are going to retool.
Yeah.
But I would also trade Embiid instead. But we've talked about that before. Embiid is probably the guy we would trade.
Yeah.
But the next one, this is very interesting. What's going on with LaMelo? We've heard the rumors, and so I have a little quote here. It's LaMelo Ball is not performing well at job interviews. I've heard that from multiple sources. He is not improving his perception via job interviews.
Hmm.
So this was from Rick Bonnell, and we'll talk about him a little later. But at
Yeah.
the first glance, I'm very concerned for LaMelo.
Yeah.
This is very believable because of we've seen how LaMelo is. You look at Lonzo, you look at LiAngelo, they're very stoic, very calm people.
Yeah.
Melo is the wild child. He will
Hmm.
get in your face and he will just talk nonstop.
Yeah.
Granted, he's matured a lot since his high school days when he called the shot at half court.
Hmm.
But, this is very believable. And that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
But before people say, oh, it's just a job interview, like, if he can ball, like, let him go. This is a 19-year-old kid you're trusting to play in the NBA, make millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Maybe on some teams, he'd be getting the keys to the franchise and the offense. So
Hmm.
job interviews are incredibly important in the NBA. If you
Yeah.
can't carry some kind of load like that, how are you going to carry the load of a franchise?
Yeah.
So, and especially now with workouts being the way they are,
Yeah.
they're even more important than they've ever been.
Yeah.
But let's take a look at the source. Rick Bonnell works and covers the Hornets.
Yeah.
The Hornets have the third pick. It is entirely possible that he's trying to just tank LaMelo, so the
Yeah.
Hornets get him, which
Yeah.
would be a crappy thing to do.
Yeah.
But it's the NBA. It's a business. People do things like this, and I
Hmm.
really think that's what's happening because
Mm.
we've seen LaMelo. He's grown up a lot,
Yeah.
and it's hard to believe that he would just be tanking his own interviews like this when his dream is to get to the NBA.
Yeah.
So it really could be like the Hornets were like, "Hey, can you run this story?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how well he did," and then just be like, "Hey, he was pretty bad," but we don't know, and it's entirely believable that Bonnell just ran the story with no sort of truth to it.
Yeah.
But it's also true that LaMelo could be tanking his own draft stock either for personal reasons
Yeah.
or because his dad told him to. Maybe his dad's in his ear more than we thought.
Hmm.
But, like LeVar said, he wants his son to go to the Pistons at 7 or the Knicks at 8.
Yeah.
So it could be that he's just doing this to get to the Pistons or Knicks.
Yeah.
And I think that's incredibly dangerous because he's a guy that needs structure. And we've talked
Yeah.
about this. The Warriors are the only ones with structure out of the lottery teams, at least.
Yeah.
But he needs a strict regimen, and regardless of what's going on, it's entirely possible that he slips out because of this rumor. He's going to slip out of the
Yeah.
top 5 if it keeps getting worse.
Yeah.
But so what do you think about just this whole like LaMelo Ball slipping?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like first things first, like if it wasn't like for you that pointed it out, like I would have never known that he was doing poorly in his interviews. Lately, like I've been seeing like teams interviewing him, but I've never seen anything bad. So it's kind of interesting to see that Hornets um writer would, publish a story like that. And I also at the same time wouldn't be surprised if he just published a story like that for personal gain for the Hornets so they could have him at that third pick. But at the same time, like it's kind of weird, but I also wouldn't be surprised if LeVar was, in his ear telling him to do certain things, handle things a certain way, even though he claims to be his own man, and I honestly believe that he should be his own man, after what Lonzo did with the brand and how he approached himself and all that. Because, we're not strangers to LeVar's antics. We've seen him time and time again in the media for, things that are outlandish and, just things that are detrimental to his son's career. But it's crazy because, after watching that ESPN interview that LaMelo had right before this whole like draft process was about to begin, like you can tell, like, he's ready, like, not trying to be cliche, but he's built for the moment and all that stuff. And so for him to be like possibly purposely like botching these interviews, it's kind of like why are you doing that? Because, like you said, like the power of interviews nowadays is but you have to sell yourself now even more because of the way that things are being approached, like draft workouts and all that. And so like teams would take notice to that. And also like, let's say that, he was trying to tank on purpose, or the Hornets writer was trying to, go against his credibility, LaMelo's credibility. If LaMelo goes to the Hornets, he's going to be like, yo, like, why would you guys say something like this? Like, I was never like that,
Yeah.
And so that would already raise concern between the franchise and the player. But if he was doing it on purpose, for LeVar, like it just wouldn't look good for the other teams that would want him, because like you said, some of these teams are handing him the keys to the offense. Like the perfect example I could think of is Trae Young. Like, Trae Young wasn't like immature like this, and he was handed the keys to the offense, and he got to do essentially whatever he wanted. He had the green light.
Mm-hmm.
So LaMelo needs a situation like that, and I don't think he's gonna get it if he's botching these interviews like on purpose. But moving forward, like he needs to be better, because like part of like becoming like a top draft pick in order to stay in the top 5 is like, like I said, selling yourself. We all know you could play, but it's just like the business and the professionalism aspect of everything. And that plays a lot into the NBA. As we've seen players interview and perform and they end up getting drafted, but they had no chance before.
Yeah.
So like you said, like it might slip out in the lottery, to be honest, 1 to 14. So I think like moving forward, he just needs to be better. Don't listen to what his dad had to say. Be your own man. And so, yeah.
Yeah, and I think another thing that gives us credibility is that why are you taking the interviews just to like botch them?
Yeah, no, exactly.
Like, why don't maybe he just thinks like, oh, if I take the interview and just perform poorly, they won't pick me.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you're gonna do that, just call them and be like, hey, don't pick me. Hey, don't pick me. Because like just say something. You know? That's just very, very weird. And I hope that's not the case, because LaMelo seems like a great kid now. But if that's how he's going to carry himself, why would I want you on the team?
Yeah, because, I mean, if you remember, like, Lonzo and LeVar was like, I'm not going anywhere else unless it's the Lakers. You know what I mean? And, like, you could say that, oh, we know that he was going to the second pick to the Lakers.
Yeah.
But, like, what if he got drafted first? Or what if, the Lakers decided to go with Tatum instead? You know what I mean? And so, like, just making things like known like that is just, it's not best for your career. And essentially you put a target on your back if you do that.
Oh yeah.
Because teams will want to go after you. You know what I mean? And so you could say that, oh, like, like I welcome that challenge, but in reality it's gonna be difficult, So yeah.
I mean, look at Lonzo and Pat Bev. Their first meeting was not fun for Lonzo.
Oh yeah, definitely not.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
So like that's why you really like, I like the way LaMelo's carrying himself in terms of just kind of being open to wherever he's gonna go publicly. But at the same time, like if this rumor is true and he's not performing well, that's very concerning.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm LaMelo and I slip to 7 or 8, I guess it's good to get on a team that doesn't have a point guard and can do
Yeah.
whatever the hell you want.
Yeah.
But it's just very weird, I guess, to say that he's throwing himself away
Yeah.
in these situations. But more coaching additions for the Nets. The Brooklyn Suns, I mean the Nets. They are just building the Suns at this point. The former Suns.
Yeah.
You have Steve Nash. You have Amari Stoudemire and Mike D'Antoni, and I believe their
Yeah.
GM used to work for the Suns. So
Wouldn't be surprised.
you're literally building the Suns,
Hmm.
a team that never won a championship, but
Yeah.
it's interesting. We actually talked about this.
Yeah.
We thought, oh yeah, Mike D'Antoni should go there,
Yeah.
and like a couple days later, he just signs with them,
Yeah.
and it's pretty crazy. But I think that's a brilliant move by the Nets. It's crazy that
Yeah.
they're just building all of this coaching experience, right? And I think that's
Hmm.
just a great idea for the most part.
Yeah.
So I'm glad for them, but D'Antoni's worked with a lot of guards, and he's
Exactly.
really transformed them into these number stat stuffing guys.
Hmm.
Look at Steve Nash, MVP under him, right?
Hmm.
James Harden, multiple scoring titles and scoring numbers that we've never seen
Yeah.
prior to, like Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan. Like, we haven't seen these numbers in a long time.
Yeah.
So I would not be shocked if KD or Kyrie put up some crazy numbers like this.
Yeah.
So, but what do you think about the Brooklyn Nets making this move?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first thing, like, you shouldn't apologize for the Brooklyn Suns mistake, because that's essentially what they are, the Brooklyn
Yes.
Suns.
Yeah.
And you know, D'Antoni, like, that just goes to show like how badly he wanted to reunite with Steve Nash, a point guard that he's trusted with the keys of his team for quite some time. But also how badly he wants to win a championship, in my opinion,
Yeah.
because when healthy, this Nets team right now is in contention for a championship. And I think nobody in the NBA right now is best to do the 7 seconds or less offense better than the Nets right now.
Yeah.
Because Kyrie and KD, like, they can get shots up in a hurry, and what their shots can be sometimes, like, it can be known as a bad shot to most teams, but to them it's a great shot because they're just great players. And so I think hiring D'Antoni was a good move for the Brooklyn Nets, because not only does it give some familiarity with Steve Nash and Amari, it gives them more room to improve and utilize a head coach that's been through it. You know what I mean? Because Steve Nash is obviously a brand new coach. He's not going to know how to do everything. And having like assistants where he's comfortable discussing with and like game planning with will definitely help the players as well. And so, like, yeah, D'Antoni, like, it started off with as a joke with us. You know what I mean? Like, we really didn't think he was going to come. And all of a sudden, there he is. And, that just also shows that there's no ego. Like, hey, like, I'm coaching under a former player of mine. Like
Yeah.
I'm buying into the culture. And so, like, what's interesting to see what these guys can do for the Nets, because, like, when the Suns were running that 7 seconds or less offense, their center was Amari, and power forwards Boris, and going forward, like the Nets, they have DeAndre Jordan, who's not the player of Amari's caliber. They have Jared Allen. I think he's
Yeah.
better fit to
Yeah. He
run.
definitely.
Yeah,
He's
with the
faster.
7. Oh yeah, definitely. So that 7 seconds or less would only work. I mean, could be better with Jared Allen. And so, like, like you said, D'Antoni has worked with some great players and transformed them, probably unlocked their potential even further.
Yeah.
And so, like, KD and Kyrie are like at the height of their prime, so it's interesting to see what kind of numbers they're going to put up under Mike D'Antoni and Steve Nash. And so overall, I think it's a good signing. What started off as a joke ended up being a good signing. And I wouldn't be. I mean, they also signed Ime Udoka, coming from the
Yeah.
Spurs,
Yeah.
and that's another great addition to the staff. Working under Pop, game planning against Steve Nash and the Suns. So it's interesting to see what those two minds can like mend together, because Udoka went from a player playing against the Suns and Steve Nash to being part of the coaching staff with Pop. And as I've said, and as we all know, like Pop is one of the smartest coaches in the game. So put that with D'Antoni plus Steve Nash, it's a good recipe. Good recipe for the Nets.
Yeah, and if I'm on the Nets right now, I'm thinking like we got a lot of good coaches,
Yeah.
and that's a really good thing to have here.
Mm-hmm.
But this all comes down to Kyrie. We heard his quotes. We know that he's on the, I guess, opposing team for coaches. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know what they're gonna do with this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great move. They had to make it, right?
Yeah.
So hopefully Kyrie buys in for their sake.
Mm-hmm.
But let's get into the draft.
Yeah.
11 through 14. We are now 16 days away from the draft on the day of this recording, when it goes up 15 days.
Mm-hmm.
But the Spurs have the 11th pick, and I have them selecting Patrick Williams.
Okay.
Patrick Williams and the Spurs have been connected for quite a long time now. He didn't start a single game at FSU. He didn't put up he put up, 9 points a game. Shot 45% from the field, 32% from three. But where he made his mark is his athleticism and his defense and his potential to become a 3-and-D player.
Mm-hmm.
And what better place to do it than under Pop? I think that'd be a good addition.
Yeah.
They need some kind of wing talent, and I think Patrick Williams could be a really good NBA player someday. I think he's going to be a great role player, even a good starter. And learning under Greg Popovich and Tim Duncan. What more could you want for your rookie?
True.
And he's got some great potential, being that athletic and really good on defense.
Yeah.
It's really good for the Spurs, because the Spurs, as we know, need a lot of help kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
They have point guard figured out with DeJounte. Their shooting guards, Derek White, he's pretty good. I think in the bubble he really showed out. And after that, you really don't know what's going to happen there.
Yeah.
So they have a lot to work on, and I don't think they're going to be back for a while. Just because they need a couple years to retool and kind of rebuild. But they'll definitely get there. I think with a coaching staff like Popovich, they'll be back in no time. And then, so I think Patrick Williams would definitely be their pick here. But who do you have them selecting?
For me personally, I would have to agree, but I have them going with a different player. I just want to say that FSU, being in the ACC, like I watched them a lot. They sneakily had a lot of players with potentials in this draft. But for the Spurs, I have them going with Precious Achiuwa from Memphis. When James Wiseman was ruled ineligible, so basically Memphis brought in a whole solid freshman class.
Yeah.
They weren't really up there in terms of rankings and whatnot, but in terms of getting the number one player, they brought him in with James Wiseman, but they also had other freshmen, Boogie Ellis and then Precious Achiuwa, to carry the slack after James Wiseman was ruled ineligible. And Precious Achiuwa, I feel like he would fit well with the Spurs. 6'9", and then he averaged double figures for Memphis. Like I said, picking up the slack. So he was 15.8 in points, 10.8 in rebounds. But just I think the opportunity to work with Tim Duncan, because Precious Achiuwa is one of the most athletic forwards in the draft.
Yeah.
he definitely has the tools to become like a prime defensive player. But what I've noticed, like in scouting videos as well as the games that I've watched with Memphis, is that he's very basic, back to the basket kind of guy, and he can make the occasional jumper. And his shooting touch is actually pretty soft and nice. And so I feel like if he were to work on it, he could be a stretch forward in the game. And working with a Hall of Famer like Tim Duncan is only going to heighten his abilities. And also, like, what we discussed earlier in the podcast is, they might want to move forward from LaMarcus Aldridge. And so, like, that's going to, it's going to bring in a hole at that forward spot. And so the Spurs, from what I've seen with Jakob Poeltl, I think they really enjoy having him on the team. Pop, the Spurs, they're known for international guys, so obviously they like him. And I feel like Precious Achiuwa can play alongside Jakob Poeltl because, before Wiseman went down, those two were a tandem. I mean, not really went down, but been eligible. But for Wiseman was ruled ineligible, like he was playing alongside a player like Wiseman. So I feel like he's used to playing with another big, which will make the transition fairly easier. But moving forward, like I have the Spurs taking him. I don't see him dropping this low with the players that we have, but like, we've been saying, the draft is weird.
Yeah.
So we never know what could happen. But yeah, Spurs, Precious Achiuwa, that's who I have.
I think either one would work. For the Spurs, like we said, they need a lot of wing help. I think either one would fit.
Yeah.
But for the next pick, the 12th pick, we have the Sacramento Kings.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why I would have the Kings select this guy, but Onyeka Okongwu.
Yeah. Okay.
Okongwu is a guy that I think he's going to get selected higher.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like the guys that I had earlier, the teams needed a point guard, so I just gave them point guards.
Mm-hmm.
And like we said, we're not draft experts at all. Yeah. Drafting is very difficult. So
exactly.
Hopefully he doesn't slip this far because I really like Onyeka. I think he's going to be such a good player. But the Kings would be a pretty good fit for him, I think. They need an athletic guy to put alongside Marvin Bagley. I think it would leave them a bit small, but Onyeka makes up for his size with his great athleticism, and he's a great rebounder, good defender, good toucher on the rim. He's a guy that any team would just love to have because he's a good energy guy.
Yeah.
But he also has the skill to back up that energy, because we've seen like guys with not a lot of skill, Kenneth Faried.
Yeah.
Great energy guys that just get a lot done.
High motor.
Yeah. Onyeka is one of those guys that has the skill to be really good. And he's only 6'9", but he is a really, really good player. And alongside a point guard with like De'Aaron Fox, who's a good playmaker, could be really beneficial to him. And even like, I hope Marvin Bagley finally stays healthy.
Same here.
Yeah, and he would be really good because Marvin Bagley can stretch the floor.
Yeah.
But, Marvin Bagley, it's been tough for him. He just can't stay on the floor. And it's been pretty sad because he was so highly touted coming out of Duke, right? And he just kind of fell apart. And I hope he puts it together because he's a really good player. But the Kings just need talent. They're always in that, like, so close but so far from the playoffs. They make it to that 10th seed, 9th seed. Never.
And they're just planted there. Yep.
They just never make it. But with Onyeka on the squad, I think the playoff drought's just going to keep going.
Yeah.
This team is very weird, I mean, they're coaching. I think Luke Walton could be a really good coach. It's just hasn't been a good team for him. I don't like the way he's been handling the Buddy Hield thing. I think that's just mishandling of one of your better players.
Oh, yeah.
But who do you have the Kings selecting here?
So going off what you just said, the Buddy Hield situation, I think he's just good as gone.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree.
I I think the Kings are gonna move forward from him, which I don't understand why, because he's one of their best players. But with that said, I have the Kings going with another FSU guy. I have him going with Devin Vassell. So Devin Vassell, he's a 6'7" forward, and the one thing that he can emulate from Buddy Hield, not as good, but he can also be a 3-point shooter for them because he
Yeah.
made a lot of his attempts at Florida State. I know this because he torched Duke the last time we played them, and so that was very heartbreaking to watch. But for the Kings, that's definitely like one of the things they're going to need moving forward because I mean, look at it right now. Buddy Hield is just one of their best shooters, and who's next after that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, like, getting somebody like him with good size can stretch the defense when needed, but can also defend, 1 to 3 is definitely what the Kings need. And also, I think I have no idea why the Kings, you know, have Harrison Barnes.
Oh, I don't
I
know.
think moving forward, it might be best to just, let him go, trade him, do something.
Yeah.
But Vassell, he has good size and height just to fill that need. He can be that 3 and D. You know what I mean? Probably a good definition of it. But the Kings are going to need shooting, especially if as you said last time, Buddy Hield followed the Sixers. So if he goes to the Sixers or any other team, the Kings are going to be left without a shooter. I believe Devin Vassell can fill that role. So yeah,
Have you seen Devin Vassell's workout video?
I have. Yeah,
It was very concerning.
that's the only thing. It is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I'll get into that actually because he's my next pick. The
Okay.
New Orleans Pelicans have the next pick, and I have them selecting Devin Vassell.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, he has really he has a nice shooting touch in college.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he's been a very hot name recently. I think his stock kind of shot up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even the Warriors want him, but the
Yeah.
Warriors aren't going to pick him with the second pick, right?
Exactly.
But his stock actually kind of dropped lately. He posted a
Mm-hmm.
workout video,
Yeah.
and so in college he shot like this, like in front of his head, but
Yeah.
now he's pulled it and it's like behind his head.
Yeah. That's the only thing.
So
Yeah.
I get he's got long arms, but I'm not sure why he'd mechanically just shift everything
Yeah.
because he shot really well in college. He shot
Yeah.
41.7% from three for his career in college, which is insane. And so to change that so drastically is
Yeah.
mind-boggling
Yeah.
because that was his whole thing in college. Like he was a 3-and-D guy,
Yeah.
and to just switch it up like that, it's
Mm-hmm.
very weird. So I
Yeah.
would think his shooting coach has something to do with that, but I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
Yeah.
And now I was thinking before, his three should translate into the NBA, but it looks slow now,
Yeah.
and he's gonna need to speed it up to get it over NBA guys because
Yeah.
the NBA is the most athletic league in the world.
Yeah.
He's gonna need to get over some of these guys, because they're gonna be able to easily come out and guard that. But
Yeah.
still, the Pelicans are a great fit for Vassell.
Mm-hmm.
You slide him next to Drew Holiday and Lonzo.
Yeah.
Defensively, that's a really, really good perimeter, good amount of perimeter defense.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's kind of crazy to say, but Zion's easily the worst defender on this team. He's very lazy.
Yeah.
And it sucks because he could be so good on defense, but you could hide him now that you have Vassell. So him with Jackson Hayes, that's a really good defensive team.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that the Pelicans can put it together because, like we've talked about, the Pelicans have so much going for them right now,
Mm-hmm.
but it comes down to injuries. Can
Yeah.
Zion stay healthy and kind of avoid that dreaded bust label, which is hard to see because Zion's one of the most popular players that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And before I let you pick,
Mm-hmm.
announce your pick, did you see their the Pelicans jerseys?
Yeah. Not a fan.
God
Not a
awful.
fan.
I've never seen something that ugly from an
Yeah.
NBA team.
Actually, what? All the jerseys they're coming out with, even the Lakers, I don't know what they're
They're
thinking, man.
weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I don't know if you've seen the Warriors ones.
Oakland.
There's something off.
Yeah.
There's no Thunderbolt. There's
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
But
It
like
looks like,
but go
yeah.
ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it looks like something that I would get from the Philippines for like $2.
They look fake.
Yeah,
They
they
all
look
look
fake.
fake.
Yeah.
And getting back to the Pelicans, that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
It looks like the Filipino national team.
It does. Yeah. It definitely does.
I don't know why you'd go like, oh, let's put 3 crescents and that's good. That's it.
Yeah.
Not a pelican, not
Yeah.
the Pelicans, just 3 crescents. Like, dang, that's nice.
Yeah. You know what? Whoever made it had to be Filipino, man. That's all I have to say.
It has to be. There's no reason.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
That's crazy.
Who do you have the Pelicans selecting?
Well, this pick, I was actually torn. This is the first time where I considered like other like players. I'm going with Kane Hayes or Aaron Nesmith, but with Aaron Nesmith, I chose him because at the end of the day, I was thinking of killing Hayes because they were gonna need a guard because it looks like Drew Holiday might get traded.
Yeah.
But then I was considering like, hey, like they still got Zoe. I think even with Drew gone, Zoe taking the keys is no brainer. Like it's nothing new to him.
Yeah.
So I think he'd be fine either way. But Aaron Nesmith, watching him at Vandy, every time I only watch Vanderbilt when they play against Kentucky or when Ben Simmons played in LSU against them, but or even Carson Edwards. But just having him, he shot 52% from 3 last season. Like it's just insane numbers. And obviously, college threes are different from NBA threes, as we all know.
Yeah.
But if the Pelicans are going to utilize, first of all, if they're going to keep Brandon Ingram and they're going to utilize his abilities along with Zion's, they need shooters to spread the floor. Kind of like what JJ Redick did for them.
Yeah.
But obviously, teams want to go younger, and I feel like Aaron Nesmith is, primed to have a good role in the Pelicans team as long as he gets drafted to them because, if his shot can transition to the NBA level, I see him similar to Duncan Robinson. You know what I mean? Duncan Robinson is lights out, not better than Clay, but, he's just a crazy good shooter. And, both systems are different. Both players are different in terms of teams. But what Nesmith can do for the Pelicans is he can stretch the floor when Zion and BI need to go to work. Because obviously BI needs the ball, to cause the most damage. Zion, he can get his from putbacks or whatnot because as much as I hate to say it, he doesn't have any offensive repertoire other than dunking. You know what I mean? And so, like, he's built on athleticism. But having a guy that can stretch the floor with their shooting definitely helps these two guys be able to do what they do. And so at the end of the day, the Pelicans, like the Kings, need a shooter, and I think Nesmith is the one that's suited for them.
Yeah, I mean, like even shooting 40% from 3, is amazing. To shoot 50% is insane.
Yeah.
So it should translate, unless he can't shoot 3 feet back, which is hard to think.
Yeah.
But, that would be a great pick for someone like the Pelicans because they need shooting. Lonzo hasn't really showed that his new shot is going to fall. Drew Holiday's even if they keep Drew Holiday, he's not a consistent shooter. Josh Hart, also not a consistent shooter.
Not at all.
And Zion shoots like a linebacker.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see what happens because I think, this year was kind of sobering for the Pelicans because they're riding such a high off getting Zion. And now, you have to, work with Zion a lot.
Yeah.
Zion needs, he can harness that athleticism. But you need him to not rely on it so much because I feel like you can easily play him by just camping in the paint.
Oh, yeah.
If he, I would just let him shoot because he's not going to hit it consistently at a level that's going to destroy you, at least.
Yeah.
So this Pelicans team does need a lot of work, but they're on they're going in the right direction, I think. But they also need to kind of refrain from coddling a guy like Zion.
Yeah.
And we saw that in the bubble. They coddled him.
Yeah.
You can't let him sit out games. He's gonna, like we've seen, he's dealt with a lot of weight issues too.
Yeah.
So, we'll get it. We'll eventually get more into the Pelicans because they're a very interesting team, and I think they're gonna make a lot of moves this offseason. Drew being the namely one because they're gonna be able to get a lot from him.
Yeah.
But with the next pick, something that doesn't happen often is when a very good team gets a pick. The Boston Celtics have a lottery pick. I believe it's the Grizzlies.
Yep, it is the Grizzlies.
And I have them selecting Jalen Smith. I would not be shocked if the Celtics move up for a big.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Jalen Smith is still really good. I think he fits this team perfectly. He's listed as a power forward, but I think he could definitely play center on a team like the Celtics. He's 6'10" from Maryland. I think the Celtics are big away from really just contending from in the East. They need a guy that's going to be able to shoot, protect the rim, and just catch lobs. That's exactly what he does. He doesn't need to do much else. He doesn't need to – you don't need a big now to just command the ball and go in the post. And this guy just seems like he does a little bit of everything. And the Celtics need that. I think the Celtics are kind of in an awkward position. Like Daniel Tice as their center, he's like 6'8".
Yeah.
Pretty small. Good, a really good bench pick. So if I'm them, I would definitely try and keep him. But Jalen Smith is probably the best pick you're going to get as a big here. And I think the Celtics just need a big at this point because they've been trying to trade for one. Never really goes through.
Yeah.
But he should be able to capitalize and help the Celtics out a lot this coming season if they do select him. So I'm going to have them select Jalen Smith. But how about you?
The only reason why I made this selection is because of, in light of recent trade rumors. I don't know if you've seen, but Rudy Gobert linked to the Celtics.
Yeah, I've seen
that. So that's actually going to be great if they can get something like that. You know what I mean? But if not, then they need to keep Tice. But I have them actually selecting RJ Hampton.
Okay.
So I have them selecting RJ Hampton because their point guard depth is kind of lacking, in my opinion, other than Kemba and Brad Wanamaker. I think Wanamaker is not even like a solid point guard.
Oh yeah.
And I think he's a decent role player, but in terms of like handling the offense, I don't think he has, the capabilities of doing so. I feel like he was just forced into that role just because the Celtics don't have anybody else, which is crazy because they also have Carson Edwards. But Carson Edwards is more of like a 2 and a 6-footer or 5'11" body. So I have them going with RJ Hampton just because he's a 6'5" combo guard that can play both. He has experience, playing overseas in Australia, like what LaMelo did. And so I think for the most part, he's NBA ready. He's played against like grown men. And so they're going to need somebody like that when they need to give Kemba a break, because I feel as if RJ Hampton can run the offense better than Wanamaker for sure. And he's more athletic. He's younger. He can make the occasional three. That's what he needs to work on, his shooting.
Yeah.
It's one of his weaknesses at the moment. But, ever since Rondo got a shot, I'm a firm believer that anybody can get a shot. And so I just, I think that he can more than make up for what he lacks. But, I think the Celtics, they need two things like what the Pistons need, point guard and a big. And so I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they did trade up. But at the same time, if they want to, stay safe, to me, I think they pick up a point guard here. And the Celtics are no strangers to picking up a bunch of assets, even though they already have them in that position.
Yeah.
Romeo Langford, when they have a bunch of forwards and guards, and so Semi Ojeleye. And so Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I think they're gonna choose one or the other, like point guard or center.
Yeah.
But you can never go wrong. RJ Hampton. I don't think he belongs up in the top five like earlier mock drafts have, and so I think he might slip. And I definitely think he's gonna go after Cole Anthony, like we discussed.
Yeah.
Phoenix. So yeah, I have them getting RJ Hampton.
Yeah, I think RJ Hampton is a really interesting player.
Yeah.
And I think with the jumper, he's definitely going to become a more complete player.
Oh yeah.
And like playing against the guys in Australia is no joke.
Mm-hmm.
Australians are some of the most aggressive players.
Physical players. Yeah.
Aaron Baines is
Mm-hmm.
crazy aggressive.
Yeah.
Andrew Bogut, crazy aggressive.
Yeah.
So playing
Yeah.
against guys like that as a kid is just
Mm-hmm.
insane to me.
Yeah.
So, it should be fun. The
Mm-hmm.
Celtics have done they've made some really good picks. Jaylen Brown's a really good player. Jason Tatum, good player.
Yeah.
Romeo Langford, not good yet. He's still got some time to improve, but
Mm-hmm.
we're definitely going to see. But
Yeah.
that's the end of the lottery. That's a wrap for the 15th podcast. But this was a lot of fun. We had a lot to talk about here.
Yeah.
And we're finished with the draft lottery. If you want us to keep going on the draft, just let us know. Comment down below. But thanks to CJ for hopping back on. That was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, man. Most definitely. Thank you for
Yeah.
having me.
And then check us out on social media. Links down in the description. Like, comment, and subscribe. But catch you guys in the next one.